Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac. Man, it feels like it's been forever since I've been on here. The close of this season as we awaited to see who the Cleveland Cavaliers will face off in round one of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals. And guess what? After tonight's, that was a phenomenal game. I'm not going to lie. That was one of the best play-in games, maybe the best play-in game that I have watched since this whole thing first started. Miami and Atlanta really went at it, and Miami came out the victor. Now, when this thing started, we were left wondering, okay, who are we going to face? Is it going to be Orlando? Is it going to be Atlanta? Is it going to be Chicago? Is it going to be Miami? And after the tournament on the Eastern side commenced and ended, we got our answer. It is the Miami Heat. That is going to be a tougher matchup than expected. Now, look, people kept asking me all the live long day, what was the first round opponent that I wanted to see the most? Now, I got to tell you, I wanted to see Orlando, who a lot of people figure are going to be an even tougher matchup than Miami, and they won their playing game, and they will be taking on the Boston Celtics, which I'm happy about because Boston, you better bring your Kevlar vest because it's going to be some elbows flying out there. Protect your ribs. You know, they are physical as hell. So I'm glad that at the end of the day, Boston may potentially get worn down in that series. I have no doubt in my mind that Boston will emerge victorious in round one. But it does make me feel better that they will take on a very physical Orlando Magic team. So after they got the 7th seed, we are left wondering, okay, is it going to be Chicago? Is it going to be a Miami? Or is it going to be Atlanta? And of those three, I always think to myself, Chicago seems the most ideal because Cleveland has outplayed them in every single game that they have this season. To me, I watched that game against Miami and Chicago play out, and I just knew, okay, I'm not sure how much of Miami I actually want. Then my mindset shifted to, okay, it's Atlanta versus Miami. Who do you want to see Cleveland face in round one between those two? To me, Atlanta. If you're asking me, if you put me on the spot, I wanted to see Atlanta hands down because you never want to count out a Eric Spoelstra coached Miami Heat team. Am I afraid of them? Am I scared of them? Hell no. Cleveland's going to win. Cleveland was going to win against whoever emerged victorious in tonight's matchup. That is not up for debate. Now, the question is how long the series will go. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not afraid to say I don't think the Cavaliers are going to end up sweeping the Miami Heat. Is it possible? Yes. But I do not think that'll happen. I think they are good enough, and I think they are well coached enough, and I do think that they have what it takes from a physicality and a scrappiness and a defensive standpoint to win at least 1 to 2 games. They have what it takes. So do not count them out. I do not think it's going to be a sweep. Had it been Atlanta, had it been Chicago, yeah, I think so. But I think Miami will end up taking a game or two in this series. They were the team outside of Orlando that worried me the most because of one, how well they execute, how well they coached, and how physical they can be at times. And this is a team that has given Cleveland problems in the past. We've seen it even just this season and in years past. It is a team that is always going to be in it come the postseason, no matter where they are seated. So this is the team that I did not want to face between the 3 remaining options, whether it be Chicago, Atlanta, or Miami. I did not want to see Miami. That said, It's about damn time. I was waiting to see who the Cavaliers would draw in round one because it just felt like it's been forever. But as we all know, the Cavaliers spent time. They spent time making sure to scout and evaluate all four possible opponents coming into this play-in tournament, whether that was Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, or Orlando. So they should be well versed in what they need to be looking on and what they need to be focusing on to win this matchup. And to me, it's going to come down to a couple of different things. I'm going to release a full breakdown before this series starts, probably tomorrow. But to me, the keys to victory here are pretty straightforward. One, control the pace, set the tone. Miami plays at one of the slowest paces in basketball, while Cleveland operates at one of the 10 fastest pace in basketball. They are very deliberate. They are very controlled. They are very intentional with their half court sets. They will make Cleveland play at their style if Cleveland does not go out there and look to set the tone. So one, you got to control the pace. Number two, you got to attack the glass, limit those second chance opportunities. And I feel like that is a perennial key to victory for the Cavaliers because we have seen them struggle in years past. What the hell? They finished 14th and 15th overall in rebounds per game in back-to-back postseasons. That is not good. We're not talking out of the 30 teams. We're talking about out of the entire 16-team playoff field, 14 to 15. That is ass. That's terrible. They've done that in back-to-back postseasons. That's been an issue for a while. That said, Cleveland did manage to finish the 24-25 season as the sixth-ranked team on the glass, although it hasn't felt like it at times, got to admit. But they've hauled in 45.4 boards per game and have a top 12 rebounding percentage at 50.5%, which it's improved, but it's not yet playoff and battle tested. Miami Heat, on the other end, they're not an especially great rebounding team. They rank 21st overall in rebounds per game, but I essentially view this in two different seasons, two different mini seasons. This pre-Jimmy Butler trade, post-Jimmy Butler trade. Things are completely different post Jimmy Butler. And if you want to look at some of the stats that they have put out there post Jimmy Butler, here it is right here. They are 12-21, or at least during the regular season, 12-21, which is the 21st best record, or should I say 9th or 10th worst record in the NBA post that trade. They had a 113.1 offensive rating, which was 20th. Their defense is actually held up pretty nicely, 112. That's the 11th best mark in the NBA. They have a net rating of 1.1, which is 16th. That is middle of the pack. They've been shooting the ball pretty well, 47.5% from the field, which is 13th. They are shooting 36.9% from beyond the arc, which is top 12. That is 11th. But as I mentioned before, they are not a good rebounding team. 42.4 rebounds post Jimmy Butler, which is 25th in the league. When Jimmy Butler left, a solid portion of that rebounding left. And make no mistake, they were not a great rebounding team prior to that, but they have been even worse since Jimmy Butler moved on. And while guys like Kyle Anderson and Andrew Wiggins and and Haywood Highsmith and Jaime Jaquez, guys can get out there and get on the glass. Hell, even Kevin Love, even though he is not a threat to play in the postseason at all, they are not going to be reliable options against a Cleveland team that is number one in many regards. So I am not at all afraid of this post Jimmy Butler Miami Heat team, but I got to say, I think they're going to come to play, and credit to them for the work that they put in. I think that they are going to win at least 1 to 2 games. 1 to 2 games. Not worried, but I do think that that Miami is going to pose a good test. To me, I think that this has the possibility to sharpen this team. They needed a challenge in round one to try and get them ready for what they are eventually going to face in the second round and beyond. They needed a tough and challenging team, in my opinion, to really stoke the fires. Now, you can go one of two ways with this. You can say You want the team that is going to be the easiest path and that they will need to be able to escape without being injured and without being physically taxed. And that makes sense. But at the same time, you want to be tested. You want to be proven. You want to be able to say, you know what? I think we can handle playoff basketball. And Miami Heat is a perfect challenge, a perfect test in that regard. So I cannot wait to see how these two teams face off, how they do battle. And I think one of the key matchups that we're all going to be keeping an eye on is Evan versus Bam Adebayo. Now, if you look at the defensive field goal percentage, Evan Mobley has held Bam Adebayo to 24 of 44. That is 54.5% from the field. And I say held very loosely because that ain't great. 1 of 3 from three-point range and has a 4-5 record against Bam. Bam, conversely, has held Mobley, and again, I use that very loosely because they have been pretty even in this regard. He's held him to 16 of 29, which is 55.1%, including 1 of 3 from three-point distance. Neither of the two has been a big three-point shooter or perimeter shot against one another in the matchups that they have faced in the 9 games prior to this. This should be a really, really telling matchup. I think Mobley and Bam could be one of the key components that decide how many games this one goes. Now, Bam is going to get his. You saw what he did tonight. He was absolutely phenomenal for Miami tonight, going for 17 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, was a very efficient 8 of 14 from the field. But the best part about what he did out there was deter. It was a complete rim to turn. He was out there on the perimeter switching out, which is something that Evan Mobley is no stranger to, something that Jarrett Allen is no stranger to. And he rejected 5 shots, and he had 2 steals in addition to that in his 44 minutes of play. So Bam should be pretty well and tired come Sunday. He's been out there playing. He's been playing pretty hard, and you got to give all credit and respect where it's due because Bam Adebayo has been a phenomenal piece of this Miami Heat team for a very, very long time. And that is why I believe it's going to come down to these two at some level, at some points. I think that, Tyler Herro is obviously one of the faces of this Miami Heat roster, but Bam Adebayo in many regards is still viewed as the straw that stirs that drink over there. And Mobley and Adebayo are sure to see a lot of one another in this series. And we know Bam is one of those players that come to mind when you think of the modern big man. He's very similar in many aspects to Evan Mobley. He's a decent floor spacer at this point in his career. He's a dependable rebounder, a versatile defender capable of both protecting the rim and switching out onto the perimeter to defend that three-point shot. And to top it all off, he's one of the NBA's better passing bigs. Oh, no, it's just a very similar player to Evan Mobley. And there is a reason, after all, that this man has made 5 all-defensive teams and has been named an all-star thrice. Conversely, Mobley appears to be on the precipice of being named Defensive Player of the Year, being voted first team all-defense as well as second or third team all-NBA. And there's just so many different things that you can look at for Evan Mobley. And this is in addition to him being named an all-star for the first time in his career. And this season has just been exactly what we have wanted to see out of Evan Mobley. But man, this matchup, this should be a good one. This should be a good one between two of the NBA's best bigs. Just give Bam Adebayo, to me, is not a better player than Evan Mobley at this stage of his career. And some may think that is blasphemous, debatable. But I think Evan Mobley has, if he hasn't surpassed him, he is right there. I know that there's a conversation to be had in terms of experience and having accolades and being battle tested in a postseason setting, but I legitimately feel like Evan Mobley is a better player at this point in his career. I know Miami Heat fans probably feel much, much different than that. But at the end of the day, I think that Mobley's growth, his two-way play has exceeded what Bam brings to the table. And that's no disrespect to Bam because Bam has been phenomenal. But I think Evan hasn't even scratched the surface of the type of player that he can become. Bam, at this point in time, is 27 years old. And you look at Evan Mobley, he is basically 5-6 years younger. He has nowhere close to being as good as he could be at the end of the day come prime. To me, it should be good, though. Another matchup that I think is going to be heavily key in this is going to be Davion Mitchell, who was a dog tonight in that fourth quarter and overtime, really just the second half in general. Davion Mitchell off the Miami Heat bench, 16 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and those triples, man. He went 4 of 9 from three-point distance. He was a huge piece off this bench, and he has been since he came over from Toronto in the deal that that really just reset this whole entire roster. That was the Jimmy Butler trade. But to me, Davion Mitchell, he has proven that he could be a really huge contributor for this Miami team in years to come. And frankly, I think that not enough people view him in a positive light as a playmaker, dishing out 5 assists tonight. And he's actually been very, very good in terms of what he has done when driving the basketball. Not necessarily something that I expected, but you have to contain Davion Mitchell, who is shooting 51.4% off of his field goals when he drives the basketball. And he has got the 8th most total assist off of drives post Butler with 46 assists and an assist percentage of 14.1% off of drives. He's been an essential part of the drive and kick for them over there, as he has averaged 5.3 assists per contest in the 30 games since he has come over to Miami. He has been a big, big piece for them. To me, Davion Mitchell versus Donovan Mitchell should be a key matchup to keep an eye on. And here's the thing. It remains to be seen whether or not Davion will be assigned primarily to Darius Garland or to Donovan Mitchell, but I got a feeling that he is going to pick up Donovan Mitchell for the most part in this series. And he's not necessarily fared very, very well against Donovan historically. Historically, he has been credited with limiting Donovan Mitchell to 15 of 27. That is 55.5%. Not great at all. Donovan is going to get his, but Davion could make life harder on him, and I am very, very curious to see how this matchup plays out. So that's matchup number 2. Matchup number 3 to me is going to be Jarrett Allen versus Kel'el Ware. That might sound small in the grand scheme of things because you got Tyler Herro out there who's going to get his, which is why I'm not necessarily including him on my matchups to keep an eye on when I break this entire series down. But I think that Kel'el Ware versus Jarrett Allen is going to hold some real merit. After watching Jarrett Allen put together another very, very good season, playing all 82 games, being one of the Cavs Ironmen. Do I need to post the Ironman stat sheet over here? The Cavs Ironman: George Niang, Colin Sexton, Tristan Thompson, LeBron James, Andre Miller, Alonzo G, Eric Snow, Drew Gooden, Kevin Ollie, Ricky Davis, Weatherspoon, Andrew DeClercq, Sean Kemp, and Jarrett Allen. He's been one of those Ironmen. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. But Ware versus Allen is going to be something to keep an eye on because of the physicality element of the two. Ware he ain't Mitchell Robinson. Let's just get that out of the way. He is not Mitchell Robinson on the offensive glass, but he is indeed a solid rebounder and one that will present a physical challenge to him, to Jarrett, and to a lesser extent Evan Mobley. Both of those two will have to overcome that. And he's not a floor spacing option in the way that we have seen other bigs out there become. Hell, Bam Adebayo is one. Evan Mobley is one. And I don't think it's going to be something that Jarrett is going to have to worry about, but he will have to try and overcome the battle of the boards, an area that I've already mentioned multiple times that Cleveland struggles with come the postseason, especially against physical teams. So this is certainly going to be one to keep an eye on. So I can't wait to see Ware versus Allen. Now, I know another question will be who draws the start at the small forward position. To be honest, with what we have seen, I don't think that Kenny Atkinson is going to turn away from Max Strus initially. Now, much to the chagrin of fans, myself included at times, I do think that there is a good level of merit to consider in terms of who should start at the 3. But with Strus getting the bulk of the starts even after the acquisition of Hunter, I don't know how much faith I have in Kenny just pulling the plug and switching things up in a major way once the postseason comes initially. Now, that is not to say that if things are not working and Max is getting absolutely obliterated, he's just not working out at the 3 in the starters minutes, that's not to say that Kenny can't adjust in latter games. But at the end of the day, I do believe that Kenny is probably going to trot Strus out there to start things off. And I don't have too much of a problem with that. But I think that could change in different types of series. Against Boston, you got to start Hunter, in my opinion. But it's hard to argue against the analytical side and how impactful Hunter's minutes have come when coming off the bench. And the other element to this is obviously one, he has played the bulk of his minutes at power forward since coming over. He's played 71% of his minutes at the 4 since coming over from Atlanta. A big reason for that is obvious. The Cavaliers do not have a true third big. They are heavily reliant upon the duo of Dean Wade and DeAndre Hunter to make up for that. And that is a huge reason why Dean and Hunter's minutes have not been significantly boosted. And I do believe that that changes come the postseason. I think they have tried to keep them fresh. But at the end of the day, you can see what I'm getting at. It does make sense to have Hunter's minutes come off the bench as opposed to as a starter. Now, at the end of the day, it may not matter who starts, but more so who closes. That's an entirely different conversation. I don't think that you can go into any one game and say, this is your closer, this is your closer, this is your closer. I think you just kind of have to feel it out who is having the best impact in said game. Now, I get that from continuity stand and continuity's sake, you want to be able to have consistency there, but the Cavaliers have they have a multitude of options. And that's not something that they could have said in years past. So I don't think that Kenny takes that very lightly. I think he appreciates that very much. And so when it comes to DeAndre Hunter versus Max Strus versus Dean Wade versus Isaac Okoro, in regards to who should start, to me, I just don't see Kenny changing things up all of a sudden. I think that Max is probably going to be the guy that gets the starters bump, at least to begin the playoffs. I don't see Kenny bucking the trends there. But yeah, you got your key matchups. You got your things to keep an eye on in terms of X factors. I think Ty Jerome, who has been a catalyst for this team all season long, is going to be an X factor. His ability to knock down that perimeter shot, his ability to make plays for others, whether it be off driving kicks, dump offs, or lobs at the rim, that can be a real asset, especially in lineups without one of Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell or both. He is capable of being a two-way player out there for large stretches, which is generally come in the form of deflections and pickpockets. He's been a threat all season long in that regard. And he ended the 2024-25 season placing within the 93rd percentile in pickpocket rating and in the 92nd percentile in passing lane defense per B-ball index. That is something that he has done consistently all season long. And so in order for this Cleveland Cavaliers team to win and win convincingly, I think Ty Jerome is going to have to be at his best, especially against an Eric Spoelstra coach Miami Heat team that can throw a lot of different looks at you. They have a lot of good wings over there. They got some size that they could throw at Ty Jerome. But when all those fails, one thing that he's always going to turn to is that floater, which has been phenomenal. He is in the 100th percentile in floater talent this year, which is that's just phenomenal when you think about it. It's unstoppable. It's basically an unstoppable shot. You see it coming from a mile away and you still can't stop it. But as you can imagine, Ty Jerome, when all those fails, that's what he's going to go to. Nevertheless, he is going to have to bring his A game in this series. Jarrett Allen is going to be an X factor. I already covered the matchup between Ware and himself, but I think with Bam primarily being assigned to Evan Mobley, I think Jarrett is going to have to take it upon himself to take advantage of the experience that he has over the likes of Ware. And this man got off to a torch start last postseason, 17 points, 13.8 rebounds. He was dominating the glass and must make it a priority to do much the same against Miami in this first game in round one and beyond. But he is going to have to take advantage of that in perceived mismatch, in that perceived lack of experience from Ware. To me, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But all in all, I am very, very excited to see what we are going to get in this series. I don't know what Eric Spoelstra is going to cook up from a rotational standpoint because I mean, for all I know, he'll throw Kevin Love out there to throw things off. I doubt that happens. But Miami, since the Jimmy Butler trade, they have really switched things up in regards to their rotation. They're playing essentially a 9-man rotation of Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Kel'el Ware, Alec Burks, who he is drawing the start over Davion Mitchell, but he is not playing starters minutes. Alec Burks only played 11 minutes. Former Cavalier, by the way. Davion played 40. He's coming off the bench. He could easily start. Haywood Highsmith, Kyle Anderson, who came over in that Butler deal. You have Duncan Robinson, one of the better shooters, who remains one of the better shooters in the NBA. And that's basically it. Rotations, we already know, shorten come the playoffs. And so I don't think that he switches up in a major way. But at the end of the day, I am curious to see what Kenny Atkinson does. That's another key thing to keep an eye on. The coaching battle between Kenny Atkinson and Eric Spoelstra. These are two masterful tacticians at the top of their crafts, and there's a reason why Spo was still there, despite all of his major pieces either declining or out of the building. Right? Survived the LeBron era, survived the final days of Dwayne Wade, got past Hassan Whiteside and company. Now he's with Bam, and the Jimmy Butler saga just ended. But lo and behold, Spo is still here. And he's had this team playing competitive basketball for so long. So long. To me, Cleveland's going to have some things to figure out. I think that in terms of what they love to do over there, you got to be able to contain the drive. Tyler Hero is going to be a problem. He's going to be somebody that you're going to have to try and contain as best you can. He's going to go off. You're not going to be able to completely contain him. He is so damn flammable. And you saw that tonight. 30 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists on 10 of 21 from the field, including 5 of 10 from three-point distance in his 44 minutes of action. That will not change in this series. However, if you are able to contain him, if you're able to stop that dribble penetration, I think that you are going to be okay. You got to cut off those driving lanes. You probably can expect a good dosage of drop coverage from Cleveland and some zone to eliminate the shot, right? Or eliminate the dribble penetration, rather. You're going to have to switch things up in terms of coverages, whether it be man-to-man or you go back to that zone. But I'm very curious to see what Kenny Atkinson draws up in that regard, because we know Kenny Atkinson, or we know Eric Spoelstra is going to throw a curve or two in there. But yeah, you got to be able to contain that drive. You got to be able to attack and limit the glass. You got to be able to control the pace because, as I mentioned, they play a very, very slow and deliberate pace. One of the slowest in basketball. I think they are 27th, or they finished 27th in total pace, and Cleveland finished 9th or 10th in that area this year. And it has the potential to be a slow, grinded out type of series if Cleveland allows Miami to dictate the flow of things. We'll see. But at the end of the day, this is their first round matchup. I'm not at all thinking that they're going to lose, but this is a tougher route to take in round one that I think many people initially envisioned prior to this play-in tournament kicking off. But we'll see, man. This is about as good as a number 1, number 8 matchup goes. And because Miami is not your typical 8th seed. I think they mentioned during the broadcast, they are the first 10th seed to advance to the playoffs, the actual playoffs out of the play-in tournament. They always seem, it doesn't really matter where they finish at. They will give whatever team that they face in the first round a tough problem. It doesn't matter what seed they're in. And that probably isn't going to stop against Cleveland. I think Cleveland has more than enough has more than enough to win this series handily, but I do think Miami ends up stealing a game or two. To me, I think that I think we're going to be in for a treat in round one between some of these matchups that we got. Orlando versus Boston should be very, very good. Detroit versus New York, that should be a good one. Cleveland versus Miami, that's going to be another good one. And then you got some of the series out on the West. I cannot wait to see Minnesota versus LA. That's one of them that's up there. But yeah, man, this is about as good as the first round set of series that you are going to get. I hope Cleveland comes ready to play after being on a layoff for so long, as everybody else knew who they were going to play, and Cleveland just finally found out, and we'll have to turn around on Sunday to face this Miami Heat team. And again, as I mentioned before, it's not like they don't know what they're working against. They've been evaluating, they've been scouting each potential opponent that they could have faced in this play-in tournament, whether that had been the Magic, the Hawks, the Heat, or the Bulls. They have spent time evaluating and scouting each potential opponent. And I think they have probably keyed in on what is going to matter the most in this series. But again, I think that I will probably drop a Cavs Heat preview tomorrow in its entirety. I've already got the script written up for it. Can't wait to see how this turns out, man. I'm super excited to see this first round series. I hope you guys are too, but that's probably going to do it for this one. As I always tell you, I'd like to reach out to me, and I can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to this Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot. I said a review to iscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you want to support the pod in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. I'm sorry, I can't get out of here without mentioning this comment. J47 says, love the Jarrett Allen posters behind you, Mac. For any of you viewing or streaming video via audio, he's referring to the Iron Man, the literal Iron Man Marvel posters and painting. I painted myself on that on the wall behind me. And Jarrett Allen is one of the illustrious Iron Men in Cavs history. Love to see it. Go Cavs. See you guys on Sunday.